Township Planning Commission meeting, May 12th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Roll call commissioners, Brandt,
Here.
Walsh, here, Moore,
Here.
Hyde, here, Fletcher, Indall,
Here.
Culberson.
Here. Okay, adoption of the agenda, and I think there was a possibility of a change.
Item C1. Add unfinished business.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to amend the agenda to move the possible action for the Nagel Precision Site Plan Building Addition. Ahead of unfinished business. Right, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is adopted as amended. Communications and correspondence. I would encourage planning commission members to really look at the Dexter Housing proposed master plan update. It has some very interesting, statistics, what they've done for community outreach and what their proposals are for changing their master plan, which will ultimately result in some zoning ordinance updates. Because I think it is, there might be some things that we can learn from it too. Yeah, go ahead.
A particular concern is some of the language surrounding annexation in the new master plan. And I know that as part of our development team meeting, the Board of Trustees intends to respond. And so there's talk of maybe adding a couple planning commissioners, a couple BOT members, and some staff people together to formalize that response. So if you're interested in being part of that, please let me know and we can see if there's room and who could participate.
Okay. Yeah, because they are dealing with proposed growth and density and, affordability too. All of those similar things. Okay, we have no presentations requested by the Planning Commission. So we'll move to public comment. And I'll open public comment at 7:02. We have anyone here that would like to address the board as a petitioner? You'll be able to present when your item is up.
We have one hand up.
All righty.
Cheryl, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Cheryl McGuire, your recording secretary, and I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you. My contract with Scio Township was recently renewed, and I truly appreciate each of the groups I'm working with within the township, including the Planning Commission. So other than that, I don't have anything else to say except thank you for the trust that you've placed in me to get your records right. So thank you.
And I just want to say from the Planning Commission, we certainly appreciate the thoroughness of the minutes. We could never, I think they're just an excellent record, and it'd be very hard for us to produce such detailed minutes. So thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
There are no other hands raised.
Okay.
Move to close public comment.
Okay. Move. Is there a second?
Second.
And that's a second from Anna.
Yeah.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, public comment is closed at 7:04. Moving on to approval of the April 28th minutes.
Approve them.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? And it was moved by Commissioner Hyde and supported by Commissioner Brandt. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
One abstention. I was not here for the meeting, so I don't feel.
Okay, yeah, and one abstention. I did vote to approve it, even though I was not here. All right. Then the minutes are approved as drafted. and posted, and we'll move, we have no public hearings this evening, so we'll move to our new business.
Were they actually posted?
Yes, they weren't they didn't get put in the packet, but they got posted with a link from the agenda.
We didn't receive them prior to.
Okay.
posting.
All right.
So they were accessible online. But good point. Then we'll go ahead and move to Nagel Precision Site Plan 25003 Building Addition. So if the petitioner would like to come forward. We'd like to hear about your project, and then we'll move to our consultants.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate you moving the agenda forward. So I think we have a fairly simple project. We are looking to infill a portion of Nagel Precision's building.
Oh, would you introduce yourself?
Oh, yes, Jack Garland, Crawl Construction. Sorry about that. Garland, Garland, with Crawl Construction. We're the construction manager for the project. So Nagel Precision is currently in Dino Drive. It's about an 80,000 square foot building. We are proposing to put a small 72 by 100 addition on it. Currently, when the last addition was put on, there's a portion of the building that was left open. So we're filling that position now. Fairly straightforward project. It's an expansion of their existing tool room. So there's no proposed new employees, no proposed parking additions. Physically, the space is going to be used just to spread out their existing facility to get more room. When they put the last addition on, they made more capacity for building machinery, and their tool room is where they make the pieces and parts is a little bit cramped still. So they were kind of just waiting to be able to do this project. So no new parking. Storm retention was actually put into the master plan the last time the building was done, so there's no storm retention proposed for the project. The building sits on a very wooded site, so we are asking for a waiver to the landscaping, which you guys granted in the last addition. We have been working with Washington County Resources Commission, Teresa Mersick. All the calculations have been approved. We're just waiting final approval from them. Looks like we'll receive that no problem. To address OHM's comments regarding barrier-free parking. They were on the plans, but we'll just put them in the barrier-free spot, so it's all in one comprehensive location as an as-built. They required about sanitary sewer. There is no existing no new sanitary sewer proposed. The restroom facilities are adequate for the number of employees that are currently there. And the existing sewer is actually shown on the survey sheet 1. And then they had a comment about the SEC. They are on C101 and C301. We can get clarification from them just for record purposes to make sure that we got everything included for that purpose. The Carlisle Wortman issues or items was asking for the landscape to be waived, and the site lighting. I did bring a copy of the site lighting tonight. We're actually going to reuse the existing fixtures that are on the building and just move them, but we'll include that in the plan as well for record purposes. I think that's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions for the petitioner? And then we'll move on to Carlisle Wortman and OHM.
That was pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
Thank
it's pretty straightforward. I don't have a lot to add. Jack did a great job. You know, from the information in our review, you can see from the aerial, the area where they're expanding is gonna square off the existing structure in the back. So really, you know, you're not gonna notice this addition at all. The planning commission did, when the last addition was completed, waive the landscaping. No new landscaping would be required for this location of the building. And then I understood that you were gonna move fixtures, and we just want that for the record.
Yeah, we have a cut sheet. We'll put it on.
Yeah. So, you know, unless you have some questions for me, we don't take any issue with the proposed project and the expansion of Nagel Precision at this location.
Any questions for Laura? All right,
I have a question,
yes,
but I don't know if it's appropriate for Mr. Garland to answer. I think this one page, this diagram, I think it was from the fire department. Do you want me to wait? I don't
oh,
know.
it's from, well, that, it was submitted by Meg, but yeah, you're wondering if the fire department approved it?
So, yeah, I'm looking at this diagram that on the packet, it said fire, but I pulled it up and it's this diagram, and I get they're diagramming the in and out, but overall, are they approving the project from that perspective?
Yes, the fire marshal has reviewed the site plan and he, we met,
Yeah.
and they talked through their issues and they, Brandon didn't have any issue with.
There's currently a fire lane at the back west side of the property. We're not changing that in any way, shape or form. So there's plenty of room for the fire truck to turn around. We're not, and it didn't add this, but we're not changing anything as far as landscaping or any trees removed or anything. The site's currently just an open area.
We'll move to OHM. I'm not sure who's on.
Should be Stacy. You should be at the end list.
You need to promote.
Hey, Stacy. Go ahead, Stacy.
My review is pretty short and sweet tonight. We recommended with no outstanding site plan comments. The comments that Jack mentioned in his presentation were detailed engineering comments, so we'll make sure those get addressed between Planning Commission and Board of Trustees for final approval.
Okay, that's short and sweet. All right, any, yes,
I do have a question
comments,
for Stacy.
yes.
Stacy, in the plans that were submitted, it's very faint and it's hard to see. So I went to Google Maps, but right in the area of the building site that this addition is going to be in, there looks to be something across the ground, and I don't know if it's a path, a sidewalk, or if it's something underground that is covered. I don't know that, it doesn't show up on any of the drawings, so perhaps it's Stacy or perhaps it's you, sir.
I can address that, I think.
Go ahead.
There is a drain, there's a small swale drainage ditch to the north. I think that's probably what you're seeing. Oh,
a driveway.
oh,
Looks like you guys are
there's a,
delivering or
yeah,
something.
there's a fire lane turnaround that's north, that's
Something
west.
butts into it.
Yes,
Here's the
it's a
fire
turnaround, it's a T.
No, there's a T turnaround and then
Yep.
going the other
lane.
direction.
Going towards the building.
Oh, it must be just a faint outline of what they drew off of Google
Oh,
Maps.
just in the aerial,
Right,
it shows
yeah.
up.
And it does show up in the submission, but it's written over the top of, so it's hard to.
They probably are just driving up to it and delivering.
It's probably just where the grass is more
I just
dead
wonder
for
if
driving
it's
around.
part of the stormwater.
No, the stormwater, there's a pond to the south. And there's a basin that's more toward the northwest of the facility we're gonna tie into.
Okay.
So there's nothing physically in the spot where we're putting the new project, the building.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, I went by and visited the site, and they actually have very nice landscaping in front of the sort of the office area.
Yes, they do.
The pond, I mean, there are a lot of trees, they have picnic tables out for employees and so forth, so I don't have any issues with waving the landscape.
Yeah, it was a very big deal to not disturb the pond in any way, shape or form. They actually stock it with fish for the kids to come fishing when they're in their employee day.
I do have a question for Stacy. Stacy, are you still here?
I am.
Okay, so I'm looking on, the first page of your memo, it's at this time, the plans are recommended for consideration by the Township Planning Commission, contingent on the following comments being addressed. And are the comments that need to be addressed, all these underlined and bolded, capitalized subsections of your memo?
No, I actually just noticed that as well, that contingent portion of that sentence should have been removed. That's just in reference to site plan comments, which we don't have any in this letter.
Thank you.
And I just have one more comment, and that is sort of advisory comment, and that is the Scio Township has a resolution to achieve carbon neutrality by 2035 community-wide. And this facility, I'm sure, has a large electric load, and it has a very large roof. And I did go on Google Project Sunroof, and it has great exposure. There is some mechanical equipment, but there still is a tax credit for installing solar, and the 2030 district provides free solar feasibility RFPs and so forth. If the owner would be interested in looking at solar PV.
I will bring that up with the owner.
That's a great flat roof. You'd generate a lot of electricity there.
Yeah, I can show you but if you go on Google sunroof, you can put in your address and you can see how much yellow is all the way across.
Yeah, it's very exposed on the roof there. I will share that with the owner.
It's substantial.
Yeah,
We look
I
at
know.
that address.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it could be quite a bit.
Yeah. You probably,
It could be a savings.
yeah.
Yeah, something of this size would probably be stop. I should be advising from this position. All right. You can stop me too. I'm going to go overboard. All right.
I think that's, in my humble estimation, that is,
Yeah.
It's 80,000 square foot building, so.
It's in the interest of the community, Madam Chair. So I think you're all,
All right. So,
Just for reference.
Yes.
This tool says there's potential $14,000 savings per year.
Oh, okay. I will definitely bring that up.
No, net savings over 20 years. Sorry.
That would have been great.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
It's still, I mean, it's still,
Not
I-
moving
I
to
can't-
the
yeah.
roof.
it would be,
what do you guys
Massive.
make? What did they make?
They make machinery for the auto industry, so of various different types. No, not parts. They actually make the machines that make the parts.
okay, so I take it we are ready for a motion? There was a model motion handed out.
Right in our little township.
When I was there last time, they were building a machine that built engines for GM.
Hey, do we have a volunteer?
yeah,
All right.
I move to approve it, based on the information received from the applicant and reflected in the minutes of this meeting, the planning commission finds site plan number 25003. Nagel or
Not Noggle.
Noggle Precision meets required standards and findings for site plan approval pursuant to section 36-180 of the zoning ordinance and recommends approval.
Second.
You want to mention the letters, the memos from our planner and.
Yeah, we could say remaining concerns noted in the township planners and engineers reviews.
Yeah.
Would that be a friendly amendment? And the dates of those reviews. Yes.
I would support, somebody already.
I
Oh.
did,
Or do you find that a friendly amendment?
I do indeed.
Okay. Then,
No.
thank you for that. Ask you. All right. So then I will call for a vote on our motion, which is to approve the site plan as submitted with the following conditions that any remaining concerns noted in the township planners and the township engineers reviews would be addressed.
Just official
Yes,
township planner was 5.5 and the engineer was 5.2.
thank you. All right, then roll call vote, please.
Walsh, yes. Moore,
Yes.
Fletcher,
Yes.
Engel,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes,
Hyde,
Yes.
Culbertson.
Yes,
She carries.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Then we're going back to our unfinished business, landscape ordinance discussion.
We introduced this at the last meeting. We talked very briefly about the proposed ordinance amendment. Chris Nordstrom, the landscape architect in our office, went through the current ordinance and made some recommendations. But overall, he felt we were generally in pretty good shape. So what you have before you are some minor changes. Additionally, Jan had noted that she wanted to ensure that in our intent, we talked about the use of native materials, and it's already in there. So we already covered that. So Jan, I don't know if you wanna.
Yeah, I think the
Go
only
through
other
discussion.
thing that encourage use of native materials and reduce I'm trying to think of turf grass where it doesn't serve a specific purpose, how you word that. But I'd like to add that into the intent.
I have a question.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
My question is this landscape ordinance for new landscape ordinance? So what you've got on your property now, you don't have to remove something that's considered invasive now?
Correct,
Okay.
and this is for commercial properties. This has
Okay,
nothing to
not
do with,
residential.
this is nothing to do with a yard.
Okay.
This is commercial property or a new multifamily development.
Okay,
It is not for single family.
thank you. I was not understanding that, so thank you very much.
Mhm.
So in the center of Jackson Road, the boulevard, you'd like to see like a natural meadow type look, Jan, is that like what you'd prefer rather than grass?
Or a portion of it.
As in no mold? Is that what you mean? No mold?
Correct.
Okay.
What's the number?
No mo.
No,
You don't have no mold.
Oh, so I just wanted to ask, in this chart that you have. Right,
Which one?
This is the ordinance,
Yeah, but there's several charts.
Yeah, so I would say the second page of the charts.
Invasive trees, okay,
So, it is, there's two areas where there's, blue, that's added.
those are added.
Okay.
Yep. The prohibited trees, if you go flip one more page, that is the listing that was much more comprehensively changed. Be much more specific.
Yeah, thank you.
It's broken into native species and non-native species.
a no-mo.
Yeah.
Sure. They spend,
I think it could look pretty messy
they have budgeted $60,000
for mowing.
per year.
Yes.
In the prohibited trees chart, actually in the comments next to it, the, one question was, would this prohibit willow use near, ponds? And I don't, retention ponds, I don't see anything that answered that.
Well, that's a question for you. If
Okay.
you want to include it as a prohibited species, willow trees wouldn't be allowed to be,
I think we should talk.
yeah.
Willow trees,
Mhm.
like pussy willow trees?
Mm-mm.
No.
Weeping willow
Weeping willow
trees
trees.
that actually draw a
River
lot
birch.
of water.
River birches.
They're very helpful in wet areas.
I think it was.
River birch would not be allowed.
Um,
They're a willow, type of willow, right?
I don't think so.
Not considered. Thought they were-
I don't think
thought
so.
they
Well,
were
it,
that.
well, it says all willow species, so I guess that the willow, pussy willow would not, is not part of the willow species.
Wait, catalpas?
Yeah, catalpas are not allowed.
Mhm.
They were elsewhere.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing because of about it. In the natives, there's willow, gray, cracked, and corkscrew.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So I'm not sure the all species.
And river birch, it does say a willow species.
Correct, that's what I thought.
And it's a native tree, so.
so do we know what is included in the willow species?
So do we know why these were,
Prohibited.
yeah,
So Chris, he did a large spreadsheet, which I didn't provide to you because I couldn't make sense of it, so I couldn't try to explain it to you. But he did a large spreadsheet looking at what communities in Michigan have prohibited and then looked at across states with similar climates, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and looked at those prohibited species list as well. And this is what he came up with. I'm not a tree expert. If you have specific questions, maybe it'd be good to have Chris come and talk to you about these trees. If you have some specific questions, because I can't answer them,
Mhm.
but this
Because
is to
we
start the
know-
conversation.
Yeah, because I know like ash definitely has disease stuff. I don't know about willow, what the deal is with willows. I'm not sure about
It's not
poplar.
native.
Box elder certainly has their, and these are native species. These are all native.
He said not,
So, like-
he said you're non-native. Thought,
Mhm.
okay.
The flowering plants native to
Okay.
Southeast
Okay.
Michigan are prohibited.
Hmm.
So I think, yeah, I think we need to
Like silver
discuss that.
maple, pure
Pure
species
species.
only, so what, do we know what that means? And if not, I'm just asking.
I don't know.
Okay. Because I have several.
Yes,
couple of
non-native
Mhm.
species.
There's probably a hybrid.
Somewhere in
Not native.
silver.
Yeah, and I think pure silver maples tend to split easily. You know, so all of these have certain drawbacks, but they also have,
One more burning page.
you know, it could be that they're not prohibited, but caution needs to be, you know, taken where and how many of these native species because of issues with disease and
Well, if they
issues
lose
with
branches or large
Mhm.
parts of them during.
during
an ice
storms,
storm,
you don't want
or a
them
parking
near.
lot, or a structure, or sidewalks, or,
Right,
yeah.
yeah, so they necessarily wouldn't have to be prohibited, but you need to,
Put
you're,
them in the right spot.
yeah, you need to take care with where they're located.
So like,
I mean, that could be another approach, is not necessarily saying they're prohibited, but highlighting that
Where they
these,
would be most appropriate.
where they would be appropriate,
not
and that would
burning
mean
subjects.
the landscape submittal would have to be reviewed, and if any of those were shown, there might be comments about those locations.
so,
Excuse me.
so this may be a dumb question, but I don't see buckthorn on here.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
That's invasive,
It's
that's,
an invasive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
So there's
species.
different, I mean, invasive versus.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Mhm.
There are some trees that are very beautiful, and they're white blossoms in the spring, they turn green, I cannot think of the name, they're really big.
The caliper pears.
Yeah, Bradford pear.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of. They're very beautiful and but they end up splitting. They have large, I mean, I had one that came down and our students fortunately went laterally and not right to my house, but. And then the next year it went the other and I just took it down the rest, but you would be more in favor of not having those be planted.
Well, the other thing too, though, is we have a silver maple and it has pulled, we have a main trunk line running through our property for DTE. And, we have a giant rat, because we've had trees come down and pull down the wires. And everybody else around us, their houses are black at night or during the day.
Edison doesn't come and.
Oh, they've come and wipe things out, we have to have the tree people out to keep things trimmed back too, so I think there's some thought could be given to some of these about where they're planted, if they're by power lines, parking lots, buildings, sidewalks, main roads. Yeah. Not saying prohibitive necessarily, but maybe think about carefully about where they're being planted, if they're gonna be used.
Yeah, I would prefer rather than prohibiting, have some sort of language about care to be given for,
In here.
for in the location of and number of these native species.
Yeah, especially here native.
Page 2.
Yeah, because there might be some, willows, putting them where they're gonna soak up water.
I'll talk to Chris about that and see
Okay.
if you couldn't categorize these into, maybe
Disease.
categories.
And.
Yeah,
And then.
the number should be, when the number is critical and when the location is critical.
And that would add a little bit of a review to your review of the landscape, submittal. I was also wondering with the intent of the ordinance, it would we would also want to state something about removal of invasive species, so that just in the intent, so we're promoting the use of native species, the removal of invasive species, and the reduction of turf grass.
And by removal of invasive, do you mean then that you have to remove it when you're going in to do what you're doing?
No, but this is what we're encouraging, so there isn't any teeth to this. There's just an intent that this is what the township is promoting.
Okay.
But could we ask for removal if it's a new development, they're doing work? They could
You
take out.
could, but if you're talking about a large wooded parcel and you just want them to go in and remove invasives, I mean, there's other damage that could be done just by removing the invasives, maybe more damage than what the invasives are causing. In some respects.
Well, the other issue is how do you?
Well, but I mean, if they're large.
Certified that all
There's other.
Remove from somewhere.
Mhm.
Seed came from something.
We have enough.
Ideally, I would like them, but.
Yeah. You see the conundrum, I would too. Yeah, and we can also provide, I think, at the pre-application meetings and so forth, some resources and so forth for folks, as to take that into consideration.
Well, if it's in the ordinance, we can just point it out.
Yeah, but it's always good to have
No,
some
yeah.
resources available
Yeah.
too.
So, I'll have Chris, categorize some things. Do you think there's value in having him come to answer some of your questions?
Yeah, he can join remotely and, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Unless he wants to come in person.
I'll leave that to him.
Okay,
Any other comments? On any of this?
thank you. All right, next, bylaw changes.
So in our last conversation, we talked about how the Board of Trustees had recently or was just going to adopt their rules of order and potentially using the same language for their conflict of interest, which is what you have in front of you. I know it's much different than what was proposed before, but that was our last discussion. So
So I would just, we had some conversation before the meeting, and I would just like to put on the record, I don't remember us adopting the idea that we would create bylaws that were exactly like the Board of Trustees bylaws. I do recall Commissioner Brandt bringing up the fact that what they did in the conflict and how they handled that. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know you had one. I thought there was a draft out there floating around, but, so I was quite surprised when I read this, that, the latest version of our conflict of interest took a complete 180 turn with some totally different language.
Well, number one, I would like to say that I think it's important if we're defining what a conflict is to be consistent within the township.
Yes.
My concern with this is there isn't a process. It just defines what the conflict is, and there isn't a process of how it's, well, can a person just declare it, or can, there was some discussion about the process about who, could it be a public bringing it up to the board or the commission and et cetera. And so I'm not sure if the trustees are gonna deal with that, or we could have a similar description and perhaps add, there might be something, like your discussion about it being a consultant or something like that, that might be more, I don't know. I guess it's whether, because we're a planning commission, that would come into play or not, but I think there's definitely process missing in this section. The
But
trustees were gonna deal with the
The trustees, in the rules of order, there is a process. Recently
Not a
done.
policy.
Not in the draft rule of order that I had. This was it. So if you could find that for me, I'd appreciate it, because I looked all through the rules of order and didn't see any other process regarding, refusal of yourself, for a conflict. Maybe I missed it, but, I did look all through the rules of order and I didn't see it.
So on section 11(1), 3. Says a matter concerning land owned by him or her, or which is adjacent to land owned by him or her. Why is that a conflict of interest? Like if I brought something before, I don't understand what they're trying to say. Are they saying,
If
trying to
it's
say
your
if it's
neighbor.
somebody else?
If it's your neighbor adjacent to the property that you own.
Oh, okay.
That was our old number 3. It's different language. That's the other thing. This language is really difficult to read, but
Yeah.
that was similar to our old number 3 that we had been discussing at the last meeting I was at. If I'm correct on that. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I also find that confusing.
I mean, because it says land owned by, you or me. Or land that's adjacent to you or me. So,
Our other language said, the planning commissioner owns or has a financial interest in neighboring property.
Right.
It was a lot clearer.
Yeah,
language.
because owned, what
Should
does
have
that
clear
mean?
Language.
Yeah, owned could, but that you have a financial interest in is very clear.
there you go.
It doesn't have to be you own it 100%. What
Understand.
percentage of ownership? Yeah,
But so isn't it the way it's written, kind of saying like, I can't bring anything before the planning commission because it's conflict?
You can, you just can't vote on it.
You can't.
Well, I know that, but
That's all it's saying.
and I guess you.
I'm just saying the way it's written.
And
it
I
kind of
would-
Seems
yeah.
like that's.
And
the way-
I'm not sure if it was you, if you would have to have someone that, I don't think you're allowed to present at the planning commission. I mean, that would be another,
A commissioner?
yeah. I think that would be no.
You're not a member of the public.
Right.
If you're on the commission. You represent the township.
Mhm.
So your engineer or your construction person or
Mhm.
your partner?
Yeah, would have to do the presentation.
I mean,
Or
but you're
it-
gonna ultimately ask me questions too, I mean.
I definitely am confused by the way it's worded, the way it's structured, this whole section 11. I would reword it. In fact, I've started to do that as a suggestion, but
I think we have Kim's wording too.
if we have to match,
My wording is easy to read, I think.
if we have to match the Board of Trustees language, then we might as well have them write it for us.
I think it should,
And I don't think that's what they want to do.
no, but I think it should be very close to what, everything should be aligned, you know, within the township, so it should match the BOT.
Do we even, like, I'm confused
Not sure I
about, I'm
agree
just, correct me if I'm wrong, Laura. I was just hearing you say you did not find the rules that Commissioner Brandt was referring to.
I'm pulling it, I pulled it up right now.
She's
So
looking.
it's also under, the conflict of interest is also in, section 11 of their rules of order, this is called voting. There's 11.1 votes required, which talks about, township policy for a majority, the obligation to vote. When, the chair puts a question to members, every member present shall vote. Prior to any vote, real or perceived, this maybe is where she's talking about obligation to vote. Any member who has revealed real or perceived conflict of interest on the question before the board shall state what the conflict is and that they request permission to abstain. The board shall vote on the request to abstain with the majority of members. That's what we're missing here.
Yeah.
It's obligation to vote.
And they don't have the situation where you have to leave,
No.
which is
So you can
pretty
still take-
common.
Yeah, you can take part in the discussion. It says you just abstain from voting.
So,
Which means you can influence.
Correct. You can also answer questions and you can be questioned. If you have inside knowledge, which would be a presumption if you were part of the group or whatever.
Or you're an expert.
Correct. And so somebody's,
I mean, I think it's just stating that you
kinda
have
like
to
that.
say you have a conflict of interest. I mean, it would be up to you to say, I'm removing myself. I mean, it's not a rule. It would, if it were me, I would remove
It's not a
myself.
rule.
But, I
It's
mean,
permissive.
Mhm.
Just do what you want.
well,
So this first 11.0, this language is all silly. There's nothing in here that says, the language that I presented to this body about that the commissioners shall refrain from consulting on projects that come before the board. Now, if the board of trustees, I'm not here to tell the board of trustees, I don't intend to vote for this language today because if they want to create permissive language, which is the very argument that I was making before this body, I still don't agree with it. And, you know, I just won't vote, but
I'm just wondering, okay, I guess there are a couple things. We can just go ahead and go back to what we were doing. If planning commissioner feels strongly that we should be aligned, then I would propose that we make a recommendation that you know, maybe Kathleen and Kim work with Mariah and someone, possibly another trustee, to develop language that we think we all can agree on, and to move forward. So it's either, do we think that something like that would be worthwhile so that it's consistent within the township? Or do we want to just say, you know, this is so far off, we want to continue with our own thoughts? I sort of see those two paths.
But, Commissioner Moore, did you have any discussions with Attorney Fink, Mariah Fink on this?
No, I did not. I'm always open to working things out. So
Right.
I would be willing to do that, Jan. But I don't know how that's gonna work. That's almost like me saying, I mean, that's my bottom line. That one sentence. I know I have other comments, but I can't tell the board of trustees. I mean,
No, but you can recommend.
okay, well, I'd be happy to, you know, I'm not gonna jump off the deep end and not follow through on things. Be happy to do that.
And I'm happy to support that effort.
Commissioners, do you want to try that venue, and then if that doesn't succeed, we can move on.
I think that would be a great thing if we could come to an agreement, and then, like Commissioner Moore said, if the Board of Trustees goes one way and representatives in this subgroup want to go a different way, they should bring that to our attention when we discuss this again. And we can consider going a different way than the board, or not.
The board has the ability to modify their rules of order, so
Oh, yes.
that's an option. I can bring such things forward.
Yeah, do we need to formalize that, do you think, or I guess it would be giving Commissioner Brandt and Commissioner Moore authority to convene with the township attorney and another trustee representative to develop common conflict of interest.
Since this
Statement.
was discussion
and
only
procedure.
tonight.
Oh, we
then-
don't have to ask.
Well, we can make a recommendation, and we could even do a voice vote, but it doesn't have to be a resolution, I don't think.
I don't think so. I think it's
So who's gonna be doing it besides me?
Kathleen
Kathleen.
and then another trustee.
Right.
Oh, you're gonna be ganged up on, Commissioner Moore.
Well, I think Kathleen can wear two hats.
Not by me.
Thank you.
I was supportive from the
She's so good. Okay, so, just by consensus vote, is that do you agree with that recommendation?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, that's great, and thank you for the extra work that you've already done, much of so.
I can
Stupid.
send.
All right. Then we're gonna continue with our new business, discussion only accessory dwelling unit ordinance.
So accessory dwelling units are something I talk about every week, several calls a week. We do not currently allow them in the township. What you have is a draft definition and a draft ordinance that would allow accessory dwelling units, whether they're attached to the residence, or if they're a detached structure, we would allow it either way. There typically is, you would state whether it is a permitted use or a special land use, and in what districts you would want to allow them. The ones I'm most familiar with are in Pittsfield Township, and they are conditional use. But that does not mean that we need to do that here. And the standards of approval are pretty much what Pittsfield also allows. They require that ADUs shall not exceed 50% of the floor area of the principal residence with a maximum area of 1,000 square feet. They only allow one ADU per each parcel. The owners of the property must reside on site and continue to occupy either the principal residence or the accessory dwelling unit. The accessory dwelling unit shall not occupy more than 2 persons. I've also seen it written where it can be 1 family unit. All setback and lot coverage requirements of the district also have to be met. And they require 1 additional off-street parking space for the accessory dwelling unit. So I have a couple questions as part of this draft to start the conversation. 1, would you want it to be permitted or a conditional use? Permitted use would be approved through the zoning administrator. A special land use would come before you, and we'd hold a public hearing and all the neighbors would be made aware. And then secondly, it's written for 2 persons, but one family unit is probably more what you're anticipating,
Yeah.
so.
So 1 family.
Like,
And what's the definition of family unit?
well, we'd have to define that, but basically 1 nuclear family with
Oh, yeah, 2.5 kids.
With-
Somebody.
parents and children. I mean,
Theirs is
it could be
better
2,
than
it could be
theirs.
2 people, it could be,
might be, yeah,
it
2
could-
partners.
Brother
Yeah.
and sister,
it could be.
With a kid.
so you have to be careful.
Well, that's why we'd have to define it.
If somebody has a lot of children, cramming a lot of people into 1,000 square feet, doesn't sound like fun to me.
I guess the other piece is this will, I think, one. Is there anything we want to mention in here, and this might have to do with whether it's permitted or a special land use would be, if it's within the sewer and water district, that's going to impact the RAU capacity. If it's outside, I mean, they would have to get that permitted through
Through the county.
through the county for the septic,
Mhm.
which, you know, would have to happen anyway, but I just wanted to bring up the REU piece because that,
I have a question on that line.
yeah,
And that would be, nowhere in here do I see it say anything about what the dwelling would include. And you just said that it'll have bathrooms in it. I mean, that's,
it says the
Where does it
kitchen
say
bathroom
this?
Yeah,
is,
it's in
where? Can you point it out?
the first,
Accessory dwelling unit.
yes,
It's
basic requirements for living,
Living,
sleeping,
sleeping,
eating, cooking, and sanitation,
At the very top.
Definition.
hiding in plain sight.
because typically they don't allow you to have a second full kitchen when you build a home.
Right.
And there are a lot of homes that have that, but they're probably just never permitted.
My sister-in-law has been lobbying me for years to build on my property. So.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll be sure to tell her.
Would these be, this would be too big to be a tiny
Don't
house.
tell her
at
about
1,000
this.
square feet.
no, it's plenty big to be a tiny house.
Because
Oh,
that's a-
absolutely.
That's a maximum.
max.
Okay, all right. So what this reminds me of is out in Arizona where my son lives, there are many people, completely different zoning out there, it's the Wild West. But there are many people who have a second house in the city on their lot. That they can, out there, you can rent it to somebody else, doesn't have to be family. I suppose you could Airbnb it, I don't know, but that's what this reminds me of, so, okay, so I'm thinking of the same thing then.
Absolutely, and Ann Arbor has an ADU ordinance.
Okay. They're called different things out
Yeah,
there.
and one of the, I mean, it's, part of it is to, provide housing stock that's more affordable and keeping people in their homes, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I don't.
So what's an ADU?
Accessory dwelling.
Yeah, fancy word for what we're talking about now.
Okay. Yeah.
Words, yeah.
You know, I wouldn't have any problem with it being a permitted use where outside of the, water and sewer, outside of the sewer district. Because they're gonna have to permit and provide adequate sanitation facilities.
And
The
so-
issue becomes in our water, in our sewer district where we have a certain limit on our capacity. And whether or not if there's another way of dealing with that, other than some sort of special use or conditional land use, because that gets expensive. I'd be interested in hearing about that.
And these would not be able to be rental homes, Airbnb, verbal.
There's no restriction.
There, so it could be.
Yes.
Because that might be something to be worth thinking about too, because there are lots of communities that don't want something like that being put in, and then it becomes a party house. I wouldn't want that from my neighbors. I'll tell you that right now.
We don't have a short-term rental ordinance. So if that's something you're concerned about, that's a whole separate conversation. We also, we don't have a building department. We don't have a rental inspection program here. So currently the township has no authority over building codes, rental properties, whether they're long-term or short-term rental.
So that
So-
means it could be a free-for-all.
Well, it just means we don't have any program, we have no enforcement over any of that stuff. And typically in zoning, you don't regulate the ownership of property in zoning. That's a separate,
But it does require a person
To live there, that owns there.
in one of those, so you would have to deal with the party house if you were.
you have to live there.
Mhm.
So you
I think
can't,
the problem gets into, like, you could be on 6 month, a snowbird down in Florida and you're renting out to Airbnb or parties or.
I mean, you could also include that you could only rent, how are you gonna The issue is how you enforce it.
We don't have any enforcement.
No enforcement.
Like I said, I wouldn't want
Right.
something that you hear these horror stories
I
and
know.
see it, and I would not want that from a next door neighbor.
So I get these calls every time I work, every time I work, and it is not about Airbnb.
Right.
It's a family member.
Right.
It's a grown child that has a
Right.
disability
Correct.
that they want a
Yeah,
location for. It's a family that wants to build a house and they're bringing grandma to live with them. It is not,
Yeah.
you know, the conversation is never with me, if they're being truthful. You know, and I think 99.9% of these are for a family member that needs care or to be near their core family.
So we could define that in the ordinance, right?
Yeah.
That would take care of that.
I mean, you could define it, but then, well, I guess
Yeah,
then
but
it could be
you
complaint
gotta
based.
be-
But I think it is. I mean, you have to live there. And so.
The person has to live in the accessory.
So you,
One or the
me, the
other,
property
property
owner, I
One or the
either,
other
I
stuff.
either live in the principal residence or maybe I'm elderly and my family wants to come, you know, that my kid and their 5 kids want to come move into what was my house and they're gonna build me a little house next to
Don't
it.
do it, Laura.
Well, I have all sons, so no one's gonna take care of me anyway, but, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I don't think that the majority of people are in it for an Airbnb or as a rental. And the majority of people need somewhere for their loved one to live. And they still want some independence.
No,
Or
I
a
think
caregiver or
Right,
something.
and I think that's true, and this has come up in our Western Washington Regional Advisory Group meetings when we're talking about housing and how to expand housing.
Yeah, and it allows for affordable housing.
Yeah,
I think it's a great concept, I really do, but just, all I'm saying is that it's worth thinking about.
would we be accused of discriminating or bias if we put language in here to limit these kind of accessory dwellings to family members?
I don't see how you can enforce that.
And again, that goes against the whole affordable housing that you're all for. What you just said, limiting, goes against that.
No, I mean,
I mean, you've got-
don't misunderstand my position.
I know.
I'm
You've got-
for affordable
And
housing,
you have the
but I'm
perfect
not,
opportunity.
I'm not
here.
for stupid ordinances that don't
I'm not
address
either.
problems, so that's what I'm trying to work
I know
on.
you did.
I'm not backing down on affordable housing, I'm just saying,
You have that this is what every city in every state, in every county is doing right now, everywhere.
And then
Not
I
just
guess
Ann Arbor.
if there becomes an abuse of it, that's when you enact a no short-term rental ordinance.
I just don't know that that's even like, because we don't have the enforcement, that's gonna be a problem too, you know?
But, well, except it would be complaint based, so, you know, if a neighbor is really PO'd because
Yeah,
they're running out a party house, then.
I'm
you know,
sure
you get-
PUDs, like neighborhoods probably would have restrictions, they would not be able to put these in.
Correct. I mean,
For
so
example,
The
you know,
homeowners association.
many homeowners associations, you're not allowed to build outside of your building envelope, so therefore they're shit out of luck, excuse me. They're not gonna have ADUs in their neighborhood. The polo fields is not going to have ADUs.
no, it's usually in my neighborhood,
Where is your neighborhood?
Marshall Road.
Well, yep, you've got a little bit more
I'm
land.
not the only, that's not the only street, that's just one.
There's probably lots that are at least an acre
Or more.
or more,
Where
at
I'm
least.
Older homes that are, if they have an HOA anymore, it may not. Yeah, those homes have been there for a long time on very, very large lots.
So thoughts on, okay, so we have a concern about short-term kind of rental stuff. We have thoughts on permitted versus special land use. I'm just thinking that adds a layer of bureaucracy to it.
I like it the way it is.
Well, it has a choice, permitted land use or
Or
special.
special land use,
I
yeah.
like it as permitted.
I mean, I'd like to see that.
I'd like to see that, but I do have a question about that.
Mhm.
paragraph there.
Uh-huh.
It's in several, I mean, RC, A1, et cetera, et cetera.
ER, 2 or 3.
Where, what would keep somebody from wanting to make a split in the future? Some purchaser of the property, now they have 2 units, and they want to split them and make, you know,
Well,
2
they would have to have, the minimum size requirement and lot width, and, in a lot of these parcels will
And
not be able
separate
to do that.
utilities.
Right.
Yes,
So this is sharing utilities,
it would
This
be a
is the-
shared septic, it would be,
shared septic.
it would be a
Yeah,
shared, yes.
you would go before you have to go up to the, sewer department of the building department, and you have to go in there, hey, I'm gonna add this ADU. It's gonna add another bedroom and a bathroom.
And they're gonna have.
And they're gonna probably size it or, you know, make you
Mhm.
add to your drain field, so it's not like a small thing.
No, it's not.
It's, you know,
And they still have to meet the, lot coverage of the district,
Right.
there are other zoning that they have to meet, it's not
Mhm.
just,
I think there are a lot of.
there are a lot of more restrictions than what are
it's
here.
not like you just, okay, I'm gonna put an ADU in and hook it up to my, drain field. No, that's not gonna happen. You're gonna have to come up here and get permission from the health department.
But it would affect our available REUs.
Potentially,
A
I mean, you're
little
talking
bit.
about maybe one,
One toilet,
lots.
not much.
Mhm.
Lots of the Jackson area, it's actually,
In the sewer.
yeah, sewer.
Not-
Well, how many are residential that aren't a PUD?
Right.
Right,
Not many.
Not many, that's true. That's
Just
true.
right here. right
It's
off
just
the
not
Jackson.
gonna, it's not gonna.
I don't think it's gonna
I
make that big
I
of a
think you're right.
difference.
I think you're right.
30 homes, maybe?
I'm,
And a lot of them have, what is,
They're hooked up to sewer.
that one that's hooked up to the sewer that's off of Maple and Miller? What is that called? Walnut?
Walnut,
Well, that's a PUD.
Is that a PUD?
Yeah.
Walnut Ridge,
Walnut
that's you, Laura.
No, it's not me, I'm not Walnut Ridge,
No.
they're not putting it in.
it's,
Come on.
that's a PUD.
They're not.
So there's a
That won't
PUD,
be
so they
allowed.
couldn't do it anyway.
I'm,
They're
and
gonna have
I
a
agree
building
with
envelope.
Laura's saying, I mean, they have very strict bylaws that say they can have one home, I mean, those are not
No way.
those are not the properties we're talking
It's
about.
gonna be out in the.
It's gonna be out where their septic, facilities.
And in some of the farm,
Right.
I mean, yeah, okay, I think that, I'm pretty happy with that, being
I have a question. For
Yeah.
Laura. Laura, you said. You mentioned conditional use, is that the same thing as special land use?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm still coming back to how I
No,
read
no, I just wanted to be sure.
this.
Mhm.
Under the accessory dwelling unit, new definition. It's an accessory habitable living unit added to. So you got an addition,
Mhm.
created within, you carve something out, or detached from a single family dwelling. So now, what if I put in a detached building? How am I going to cook and have sanitation in that building if I can't hook it up to the main sanitation, the main drain field? Do I have to create a whole new drain field in that?
Oh,
That's a sizing.
it's a sizing thing, you come up here to the,
No, tell me what you mean by a size.
okay,
It
so
Yeah,
when
go
you
ahead.
build your drain field and you come to the health department, they look at how many bedrooms you have. And you say you have 3 bedrooms, and that's how they determine the size of your drain field.
You missed my question.
Nope, I'm gonna answer
No,
it.
No, you're going off, please let me
Okay,
word
go ahead.
that. My
Keep going.
question is, if I have a separate building
Mhm.
and if I meet the requirements of the
Yep.
the sizing
Right.
for the building department, can I tie in?
Yes,
Yes,
So if you can't meet it, you would have to have a separate drain field and a
No,
permit and
no,
all that.
no,
would
you would
enlarge your
add
current
on to
system.
your drain
I
field.
didn't hear what Laura said.
you would enlarge your current system.
Yes.
Okay, so you,
You
Add
can
on.
add, I mean,
However-
you could build a new drain field, but in most cases, people would just enlarge the one they have.
Every drain field in that we have right now currently has their drain field, and then they have future expansion. They always have an area that is for the future, in case this area goes bad.
Unless they already meet that, they met that need and they
Then they're
expanded
going,
already.
then they're going above ground, then they're going engineered.
So you're saying you can't tie into it even with a separate
Yeah.
building,
How-
and you might have to expand in order to do that.
Yes,
However, we do have an issue because any drain field that is shared by more than one building is a community wastewater facility.
again,
By our
those are
definition.
those are gonna be in PUDs.
No,
No,
if you do that
that's a
right here,
separate
right now,
ordinance.
we
I
have-
know, the publicly or privately owned, community shared
No.
septic.
No,
system.
our definition says if it's shared by more than one building, I believe it's
think you're
a
right.
community wastewater facility, so we would have to amend that.
We don't, is there any, we'd have to talk to the health department.
No, this is
No,
our
it's our
ordinance, this is Scio's ordinance.
I know, but I'm saying they don't even, there's no shared septic.
Oh, yeah,
There is a community waste.
There's community, the privately owned community.
but they have shared septic with multiple buildings, yeah, they have a criteria for that.
Which neighborhood? Where is it? What are you
No,
talking about?
the Washington County Health Department
Right.
allows more than one building to be on a shared septic. We as Scio Township haven't, you're checking that ordinance, check that, because I remember correctly, I think that's.
You're correct.
Community wastewater.
So we would have to
Private.
amend that to accept ADUs or something like that.
It's a definition of
Yeah.
community wastewater system.
At least we should look into it and see if we need to.
And it says
Yeah, I
two-
think that's right.
Two buildings.
Yeah.
And you could just exempt.
We could just exempt
ADUs.
accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah, exactly, from that ordinance.
From,
Or we could put that in our ordinance that would exempt it from that one or not?
Well, I'll talk to Mariah about that.
Okay, all right, yeah. Okay, Yeah.
so we allow not the privately owned community shared septic systems. Which ordinance are you talking about?
This is the
Community wastewater
Just
treatment
right now.
ordinance.
Division,
It's the definition of a community wastewater system. I'm gonna pull it up.
okay,
It's pretty broad.
very.
It states in here only one. Here it is. The treatment system from more than one dwelling unit or structure.
yeah, that's a privately owned community shared septic system.
Yep, so it falls under this and it's regulated under that.
I just think that anything that's gonna be a privately owned community shared septic system. Like this, is gonna be over here, the timber, whatever it is,
Sure, there are
That-
big units.
that Midwest Consulting did, that again, has building envelopes that you're not gonna be able to put the ADUs on.
Oh, I'm not worried about that, I'm just worried about the definition, if we, if we allow ADUs to share, and they're a separate building, we would just need to exempt them.
I just
That
feel like-
falls under that, and you have.
It's community wastewater
restrictions.
system.
Right, I just feel like every time that you see something like that, a system like that, then, it won't. But I don't know, we should definitely check it and make sure that it doesn't cross, but I would say in general, it's not going to cross. Because-
I think what this comment is as it's written,
Right,
I'm in an A1, I could put an accessory, an ADU in,
absolutely.
tie into my septic. By Scio Township's definition, that is now a community waste.
And
We
it
have
gets
to-
regulated.
And it's regulated. We now have to, should we do an ADU zoning ordinance, we have to prevent that from kicking in a private residential single parcel.
I think it's,
So we just wanna make sure we got pretty
I think it's really
clean.
simple. I just wanna
Okay.
make sure Mariah's okay with it.
Yes,
Okay,
Okay, I see what you're saying, so become an accessory, not
yes.
not tying into, I thought you were talking about
The-
tying into an
No, the
accessory,
definition as it
a
stands,
shared system.
yes.
Okay,
Then you have to follow all the regulations that are in that one.
the difference of a shared septic system, however, is that there's different lots, so to speak, lot lines.
mm-mm.
Well,
Not based on this definition, there's not. It's
It's
talks
in
about,
one parcel.
it talks about more than one structure or dwelling unit using
Right.
one septic system.
Right.
And there has to be a
But in
management,
general, when we have a shared septic system with multiple.
Well, there could be lot lines or it could be a condominium development. It
Right,
isn't
there's still
necessarily,
lot lines.
not really,
There's
but.
still lot lines.
however,
Okay.
however, you have to have a management company that is responsible for
Yeah,
maintaining.
we're
it.
just gonna exempt them.
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
You
So
don't
I
want
think
all
the
that to
problem
kick.
is if we don't clean it up a little bit,
No, I agree,
we leave ourselves open to a developer
No.
saying,
yeah,
that's not what you.
right,
How you're
no,
enforcing.
I agree with that.
Okay, so are we okay with the language as it is, with it being a permitted land use? And, then dealing with the shared septic
Shared
thing?
Yeah.
Is this the first time that we've seen the actual language?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, so this'll come back again.
and I do have one more question.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
And if it's sold and somebody else moves in, they couldn't let the accessory unit be occupied by the same people. The way I read this is they have to be family members.
No.
No, oh, 'cause they could let the,
The owner has to reside on the property. It
That's-
doesn't say that they
okay.
have to be related in any way.
right,
And I would say, yeah, defining the number of people, I think you'd have to have a very broad description of family unit. So that it could be,
Is that necessary?
well, we describe what its intended purpose is, and we talk about, you
but if
know,
it's just two
family
people,
members.
then, you know,
Well, I would
It's
wanna
not big
change
enough.
that
Yeah.
language
Yeah,
yeah,
to allow more than two, a family.
yeah,
a,
Two in a family, is that what you
Is,
said?
or is there a definition of family unit?
There is in our ordinance, but I'm not comfortable with
Yeah,
it, so
exactly.
Mariah and I are gonna have to.
we also
think
call it
about
a housekeeping unit, is that defined in our
that
language?
would be, yeah,
Um,
that's a more generic term.
Yeah, but
yeah, a
is it
housekeeping
defined?
unit is pretty much the same as what the definition of a dwelling unit is. I mean, it has all of the parts
Okay.
of a full,
As long as we defined it in our definition somewhere.
well, that's what you wanna call it instead of regulating.
I guess
A
if
family.
we just need to come up with a definition that would be flexible for, I mean, it might be two people who aren't married that, and one of them has a kid, or, you know,
No, I think.
the idea is you're not gonna have 20 people in there. But you might have 2 adults and 2 kids and 1,000 square feet. I mean, there are ranch houses
Yeah,
that are
for sure.
less than 1,000 square feet in the city of Ann Arbor, 3 bedrooms.
Lots of walls.
Lots of
That,
walls.
that brings up something, does this at all restrict whether it has a basement or not, which influences the total square footage? Or,
It doesn't.
I've never seen one, I've never reviewed one with a basement. Usually
Right.
they're on slab
Right,
or they're an addition to a home.
but it doesn't rule it out.
Doesn't rule it out, but that would,
And when you say parking place,
they need to provide for, they have to demonstrate that they have parking outside of the drive, an additional parking space. So if the home only has a garage and enough space for 2 outside cars, they have to show that they have enough space for one other vehicle. You can't have one vehicle always parking on the street. You have to show that you have enough property.
okay, but it could
To
be
allow-
a garage and then a driveway that,
It could, yes, it could,
that 2 more cars could park on.
it could be.
Okay,
How many of these units have been built in Pittsfield?
Not very many. In the 7 or 8 years I've worked in Pittsfield, we've reviewed probably one a year. But I get calls here all of the time. so
Expensive.
They are expensive to build.
and that's why even in Ann Arbor, they've had issues.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking building something at within $250,000 for 1,000 square feet at least.
But it sounds like there's a demand for it, and this would at least provide
An avenue.
an avenue.
And provide some income for people and also provide affordable housing.
And flexibility for
families.
families that, you know, have multi-generational families, yeah. Okay. All right,
I'll
and
bring
we
it back.
make some other
Please, I
places
can.
legal
That
that already have. That seems a personal that have. Really? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
Interesting. Okay, great. Then continuing on. Okay,
dwelling.
reports. Laura.
I think this is our last meeting our only meeting in May, so we won't be meeting again until June. So I'll be bringing back the ordinance stuff for you, the first meeting in June. I also have 2 conditional use, applications that have been submitted. Fran's gonna be back on Thursday, so we were holding those until she could process them. So we probably, with the timing, are looking at the later meeting in June for those public hearings, so just FYI. That's all I have.
Right, OHM.
I have nothing to report tonight.
See, Bob, do you have anything from Huron River Watershed Council? I
I
don't have
do
my
not.
list in front of me.
Not tonight.
Okay. Trustees.
I don't see anything that has great relevance to the planning commission. I did attend the LPC,
LPC.
seminar that.
Yeah.
didn't see
I don't
anything.
think there was anything else. See, Kim.
Quickly, I handed out this flyer for everybody. I think this would be pretty interesting for us. This panel of developers. We had anyway, panel of developers, and some of them will be, affordable housing developers. There's been some discussion in our last meeting that, these developers that do affordable housing, they want to make sure that the entity, the city, the township is all in on it. They don't want a lot of wrangle before they'll even come in and consider your township for planning. So anyway, I think this will be very, very informative for us. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. And that will be at the council chambers on Main Street in Chelsea. This week on the 15th of May.
Can you send this to me in a PDF form?
I
Can you
can't,
have it?
yeah.
I would like, because I
scanned it.
have a couple of people that might also.
Oh,
be interested in
absolutely.
it.
And I'll send it to all the planning commissioners, because I have.
Oh,
Yeah,
and would
so
you
share
send
it
it
with whoever
to
you want.
trustees too?
Sure.
I'll send it to trustees too, okay.
Mhm.
And Jan asked me if, folks could participate virtually. I never sent the email, but I'll get back to you if they have to check. I wrote the email and didn't send it to Jane.
Okay.
So that's kind of what's up with us. A lot of planning stuff. Another issue came up during our last meeting about housing was this concept of transfer of development rights. And that was seen as a way, that was promoted as a way, like if Scio Township sold its or transferred its development rights to another community, they could build up, they could build more. And so the question was asked, I believe it was the new supervisor of Sylvan asked, well, you could just deal with that in your zoning. Why do you need us to or somebody to transfer their rights? And they just said the same thing over again. So I'm not sure what that all is. I don't know that my sense is that the reason it didn't get answered was because you're talking about transferring your development rights within our township or a city or whatever, but I'm not sure of that. But I found it to be an interesting concept because this has been floated a couple of times about a way. Because one of the things that's going on that I've mentioned to you, Jan, I've been going to these meetings a little bit over a year now, and clearly Chelsea City and Dexter City are out of property. And, recently, the pressure was put on Lima to agree to a 425 agreement, or they're gonna annex. Lima agreed to 425 agreement, and I think, part of the provision is that they would share the taxes for 30 years. I don't think they wanted to do that. I think they were trying, I know it was brought up a lot of times, and they kept nudging the guy that was at our meeting, so I kind of watched it. I also seen Dexter is looking to annex or 425 or whatever, I don't know what the appropriate word would be, but they want to build on property out in Webster. We have some, I think, vulnerable property that they may want to take over, so, this is only gonna get worse. We're already seeing it, and I think people are using this forum as a way to, as well as talking. And my understanding, is that people just didn't respond at first until pressured or threatened with annexation. So, we are, have a very, healthy land preservation commission. We had it, so we kind of, Dexter Township just got it going, and some others are looking to do that, but we're gonna run out of some property. And I think that, there's gonna be a lot of pressure to develop, like you were saying, Madam Chair, last year about how the SIMCOG has said that Scio Township needs to have 3,000 more units for the near future. And I think we're already, we're right next to Ann Arbor, so we're getting a lot of it first. But it's gonna be a problem, because the townships are the ones that have the property, not so much us. We're filling up. But, so these issues about, these topics about transfer of development rights and all that stuff are coming up. And, my sense is that a lot of these other townships, Sharon Township, Sylvan Township, they don't know what that means. And when asked, it wasn't really explained. So I'm gonna do a little research on it.
And I've also heard that becoming a charter township, also makes you less vulnerable to annexation. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah. Okay.
I've heard that.
Now, what other,
Look at our trustee.
what other
No, it
thing?
is true, but I can't tell you how that is. I would have to read it now.
Just one other thing, this has been going on for a while. The letter was generated by the Scio Township, Chelsea. And they, in conjunction with working with, Smart, is it, what's the entity that promotes businesses? Spark. They view housing, stock an issue for their development, economic development efforts. So they have been talking to legislators, maybe commissioners. And so there's been a conversation between some folks in Chelsea. And so they developed a letter. They are, and asked all of us in our meeting whether or not we want to sign on to it. And I asked last year for the letter because I wanted to bring it to the BOT for its consideration. And they were not ready, and they're ready now. So that's something that I would provide for you guys to look at and then maybe speak on it a little bit at your meeting, but I'll get that. This is kind of, and I think this is a good thing. We just changed our meetings from Thursdays to Wednesdays to try to promote more involvement of Manchester, Sharon, all these southern townships, so that and this was also recommended by Representative Dingell's assistant, saying, because they have their own, those folks in the southern part, they have their own little group they get together. And so we want to be a one force to make impressions on legislators about what we want, what we don't want, as well as the Board of Commissioners of Washington County. So I forgot why I brought that up. I brought that up because this letter is sort of one initiative that might come out of it. So anyway, I think that's a good thing. I mean, this is part and parcel of people in the western part of the county feeling like you want our votes, you want our taxes, but we don't get any of the bennies. Where does the money go? Where, like, for instance, the mental health dollars, where did that money get spent in the western part of the county? Especially since St. Joe / Chelsea Hospital shut down its mental health department. So, I see that as a plus coming together and being a force to be listened to and reckoned with. So, see how that works out. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, did I forget anyone other than Chair and, oh, Peer River Watershed, was there anything? No, okay. All right, a couple of things. One, I want to also thank especially Bob for standing in for a couple of meetings of mine, so thank you very much. It's appreciated.
It's very well the circumstances.
Oh, wow. Thank you. It worked out. Wow, thank you. Also, we did, Laura received a request from the Parkland Plaza PUD folks to have some sort of workshop before they come back. I guess they wanted to, kind of go over some concerns and so forth. So we have done that for some folks, and usually it's no more than 3 volunteers of commission members, and the planning staff does get paid for that. That would have to be worked out then, but it would be a volunteer group from
Do you have any idea when that would be?
Well, I'd have to reach out to them to schedule it, so I would ask for volunteers to be part of that conversation. Bob and Laura were pretty vocal during that conversation. I don't know if Kathleen wants to be part of that or Jan, because Kathleen will move it forward, it eventually will get to the board, but it doesn't matter to me. I just need to know who wants to be involved and how
Yeah, I'll definitely,
timing.
Yeah, me too,
but
if
I'm
possible.
gone the next 2 weeks.
So they might want to meet before you get back.
Yeah.
Because they've been.
Then you can send me emails or whatever, but try and look at it, but
It can't be later this week for me, but other than that.
It won't be this week. But I can ask them about next week.
so is there anyone else that's interested?
Proposal is on there.
Piper Ridge. Is there anyone else that's interested in?
If Laura can't do it, I'll sit in for Laura if you're willing to.
That's why I was offering if people wanted to be part of it.
I don't even know anything about it, so.
Okay, I'll do it.
It sounds like Laura be the.
Yeah, so Laura, and if Laura
Priority
can't do
candidate
it,
for that.
I'll stand in for Laura. Okay. Great. Then,
You heard what I said?
not in the next 2 weeks if they schedule it.
No, you listened in to the last meeting and it was just too much. She pretty much said
I
it was,
listened to the recording.
yeah, it was an ugly design. Yeah, I didn't like the design, I didn't.
Well, we can give it to, I mean, we can provide suggestions. That's probably why they want to have a workshop.
Which I was doing, I mean, I was being pretty.
All right, so, the next thing is Washtenaw County is putting on the Renewable Energy Academy Workshop, and this will primarily deal with the larger solar utility scale, but it also could touch on between 50 and, less utility scale solar. It is free. I happen to have a commitment because of the Catalyst Learning Catalyst, what is that called? The community, what is it, Catalyst Communities meetings.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, and this is the Renewable Energy Academy is Monday, June 2nd from 12 to 3. And it's going to be on the Washtenaw County campus at the Learning Center. I have an RSVP link. If there would be at least, I would like at least one volunteer, or if
I
not
put it
2
in my
volunteers.
calendar. What date is that?
June 2nd,
June 2nd?
yeah, 12 to 3.
The link,
Yeah,
thank you.
okay.
Yeah, I have it in my
Okay, you
And,
do have to register, so
Okay,
I will send this to both Laura and Kim.
and is that virtual?
No,
No.
it
And
is
where-
in
where is it
person.
again?
The Learning Resource Center, which is
Oh.
on the camp, the jail campus.
Oh, back.
Mhm.
Okay.
The jail campus. If you go in the Hornbeck entrance, it's the jail campus. Okay.
Well, we all knew what you were saying.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Monday.
Yeah.
What time is it approximately?
Well, noon to 3, it includes lunch. Laura, what's the beginning of your email? Just the first two.
HIN.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
That's great, because we don't have a planning commission.
All right, then, let's see, I also have, all of you got the invite to the Jackson Road Public Meeting, May 28th. You can join either here or online, and I will get that I've asked Christy to add it to the public calendar meetings too.
The Jackson Road what?
Corridor public meeting. Yeah, so this is where the consultants are gonna come with some options and sort of a summary of what they've discovered, the feedback they've gotten from the public, and get more feedback.
What time?
It is 7 to 8:30 p.m.
And where is it?
here.
Oh,
So that will be recorded.
It will be recorded.
I initially accepted and then,
Yeah, what date was it?
The 28th.
28th.
but if it's recorded.
Mhm.
I gotta look at it.
And then from ESTF, we have a sustainability Eagle grant request that's going to the BOT. It didn't get on the 13th, the meeting for the 13th, so it's on the agenda, I think, for the 27th. Is that correct? And then we did submit for the Michigan Green Communities Challenge, and we should achieve gold. We were silver last year. We moving up to gold. And we haven't gotten confirmation yet of that. And then we just barely, you needed 100 points and we had 101 points. So where last year we were really close to gold, but couldn't make it. Then the Catalyst Leadership Community Fellowship Project starts Monday. And just a reminder that fellowship is, it's 10 weeks of free full-time grad student. And our grad student has a really interesting background, and she will be working. Chris Chang and I are kind of co-mentors representing Scio. And then Beth Gibbons is our technical advisor from Washington County, and they're developing a sustainability curriculum for elected and appointed leaders and staff. But of course, it can be used by the public too. It's open. And so that's a 10-week thing. So that's my chair report. Anyone else have any announcements or sharing of things? Okay, then we'll open it up for public comment. We have no one in Township Hall online.
If anybody wishes to speak that's online, raise your Zoom hand. There are none at the moment.
I open public comment at 8:34. No,
move to close public comment.
okay, moved by Commissioner Moore, supported by Hannah. And boy, I'm losing it. Come on, concentrate. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then we'll move on.
8:34.
At 8:34 it was closed, yep. And entertain a
Motion
motion
adjourned.
by Commissioner Moore. We've got the kinda here. All right, any further discussion? No. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then we are adjourned at 8:35. Thank you.
Yeah, I love it, then. Yeah,